Welcome to From the Halls of Justice. And in the studio today, we are very fortunate and blessed to have something I haven't had the privilege and honor of having before. Right next to me is the Honorable Judge David Surmeyer Cunningham III, who is my inspiration and my muse, and he's the man that I respect most in this entire earth. So thank you for being
tall
here.
Order, but
Yeah, well, you are right. You're 6 feet something. Anyway, and then our fabulous special guest in the studio is the Honorable Judge Clarke and his beautiful wife, Mrs. Clarke, and he sits on the bench in the Superior Court. I would like for you, Judge Clarke, to have the honors of introducing Mrs. Clarke.
Thank you, Wanda. Thank you for having us. This is Jeannie Foley Clarke, my bride of 39 years.
Wow, beautiful. I feel like clapping. Yes. So, I tell you what, Mrs. Clarke, Jeannie,
Yes.
what is the secret to staying married for 39 years?
Oh boy, that's a big question. I think it's a choice,
Mhm.
and it is something that we made a decision to love each other. And some days you have to say, "By God, I'm going to love you." But it really is a decision that you make, and you live by it. And he's a wonderful man, so he makes it very easy.
Oh, that is so nice. I'm so happy. This is wonderful. Well, you are absolutely beautiful.
Oh, well, you're so
And
sweet.
well, Judge Clarke, I would like to start out with the following statement is displayed on your desk. The full use of your powers along lines of excellence. Why? And where does it come from?
Yes, actually, if you were to come around behind my chair where I sit, so you're looking at my view, that's what you would see. Now, that quote is often given to President Kennedy, who happened to appoint Jeannie's uncle to the federal bench in Nevada, if I can drop names, but he said that. Now, it was from Aristotle that he learned it. Obviously, he received a classical education, and Aristotle taught that a person can achieve happiness if he or she can use their highest powers along lines of excellence. And it's a good reminder for me. I try to follow it, and I believe it's very true. Some people, the notion of excellence causes them to shy away, maybe even not start. Others, I think, choose to criticize excellence because they don't think they'll be able to have it. And then there are a special group who won't necessarily always have it, like me, but we'll try. We'll try. And in the process of trying, I think that's when we achieve happiness and achieve a lot, if not occasionally some excellence.
I like that. What do you think, Judge Cunningham?
I think that's a tall order, and it's a great inspiration, and I try to live by that myself.
Well, under the glass desktop are photos of Ashley, Keith, and Janice. There are also pictures of married couples Cindy and Andy and Ralph and Thelma. Where do these people fit into your life?
All clients in one way or another, or close friends. Janice was a court reporter in my court for years, very hardworking, wonderful, passed away too young. And her picture is just an important reminder to me of many things. Keith was a young man killed in a tragic accident. I represented his parents in a wrongful death suit, and never filled the hole created by his loss. But I walked alongside them through the legal process of trying to get some justice for it. We were fortunate that got to the Court of Appeal, and Paul Boland, who was a professor of mine in law school on the Court of Appeal, found in our favor and reversed a trial judge who meant well. She decided that we couldn't prevail, but Judge Boland established some new law in the area of what psychotherapists have to consider and who they have to warn. There's a case called Tarasov that Judge Cunningham knows well, and many people know well. This was an extension of that in honor of Keith. And so the couples that you mentioned, Cindy Aiken, Jeannie knows her and her family, physically destroyed in an automobile accident due to a vehicle failure that we were able to link to a design problem, an old truck, not well maintained, but still had a design problem, and to get for her a stream of monthly payments that's still going and will for the rest of her life, so that she has some choices and some rehabilitation and ways to live. And she was a young Boston Marathon runner. If people see the other show tape tonight,
All right.
they'll be tuned into marathons. She was just a wonderful athlete, and her husband, Andy, also a competitive beach volleyball player, really nice guy, and they were just
Two
kind of
little kids and two little girls.
young. Yeah, well, they had two girls who survived. But for her, again, we were able to get a settlement and set up a structure that looked after her. And as for her loss, it doesn't make her walk again, didn't make her understand even who she was or what family she came from anymore. But she was not left at the whims of public assistance or changes that might happen, that she has some control over her life. And Thelma and Ralph Horner, another pair of clients, such a sad story that she visited on her 50th anniversary with her husband, Ralph. They married when he was 18 and she was 16 back in the Midwest. They had to run over to the next county because it was not legal to marry where they were.
Okay.
So they married, stayed together for 50 years, and she came to Southern California and had some instability and some cognitive issues, and went and got appropriately analyzed, and they took a biopsy of her brain. Now, unfortunately, the person who read the biopsy shouldn't have read it. He knew he wasn't specialized enough to read it, but he said he read it because he wanted to see how close he came, and that the specialist at the teaching institution would read it, and he would find out was he right or not, and they would plan based on the second person.
Did he let anybody else in on this idea?
Well, not exactly.
Okay.
The specialist was on jury duty, and so he was not there to read it. And so the people in the proton beam laboratory where they treat such things went by the first report.
Relied on his report.
And if his report was accurate, she had a disease that would kill her in 3 months if they didn't treat it, would kill her in 6 months if they did. So they gave her this really extreme therapy so that she could add a few months to her life. Well, in the process, the radiation killed her brain cells while killing the cancer, and it turned out she had multiple sclerosis, which is quite survivable, but she survived without a usable brain, and ended up, laying basically in a hospital bed, being carried to the shower by her husband. This man put us all to shame, the care he gave his wife. So medical malpractice does not give you generous compensation, I would say, but something was obtained in a victory for them. And to see that, I've got their wedding pictures and I've got their 50th anniversary pictures side by side, and it's enough to bring a tear to your eye just to look at the pictures, but the story and to walk with him through that struggle was so important to me. So that's why they are there.
That's love. That's the story is tragic. That's love. That's awesome.
Understand the closeness.
Yeah. Well, I just told him, you are Superman, and you make the rest of us men look poor next to you. It was that good. And
What a commitment.
well, hats off to that 18-year-old that made that commitment to her.
We visited them in Oklahoma. When
Well,
back
we
there
did.
for a UCLA game. And
Yeah, they moved to
got see 'em.
Oklahoma,
Yeah.
so Jeannie got to meet.
Mhm.
and
So you're married 39 years, and they've been married 50 years.
Yeah,
Oh my God. That's amazing. That's wonderful when people really understand what it is to love somebody and have a commitment. Judge Cunningham has been with me a little while since he's known me doing the show. One of the shows we did was with Dr. George Fishbeck.
Oh.
Right.
And on the show, I have this on the show, Dr. George, he and his wife Susie, he commented how he and Susie had been married for 52 years. And it was so cute. Judge Cunningham looked at him and said, "To each other?" You know? Yeah. Yeah, to each other.
Well, I was doing family law at the time.
Okay.
We had
Not
a
you-
few
you're not
people
used to
that
that.
were married 50 years, but the 3 people, total 50.
that's such hard work in family law. It's so
Yes.
hard.
Yes.
So I thought that was outstanding. I'm like, okay. So I like this. You made me think. There are 6 quotes from prominent thinkers that you have sometimes used to pass the time with your jurors. What is your thinking when you bring these up? Okay, number 1, always do right. This will gratify some people and astonish the rest.
So, trial judges who work with jurors are dealing with many goals, one of which is to keep the jury invested in their work, I think to respect their work, to take it seriously, because I think most of us feel they do a better job when they think it is consequential and important. So the way I use these is as a filler sometimes if a lawyer's having trouble with her technical equipment, and rather than have the jurors just stare at that person, because I've been there as a lawyer, and what takes you a minute to fix with no one watching takes 5 minutes with the jurors watching.
Right.
So sometimes, or maybe someone will go into the hall looking for a witness, and instead of sitting there staring, so I put these up and I ask the people on the jury, can you tell me who you think said these 6 things? And if anyone can guess them, I will tell you if you got it right. And at the end, I'll tell you who they all are.
Okay.
And over the years, I think every one has finally been guessed. The hardest one on there, a man guessed, and he said, "My daughter taught it to me," which I thought was very cool. But anyway, that's how I use them. So that's Mark Twain, the first one, and it's kind
never
of
known that. I grew up in Missouri, and he's from Missouri. I should know that.
well, it's kind of clever, and because we are asking jurors always do right, and so that's a way to humorously remind them.
Okay, well, let's go to number 2. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy.
So that's the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who gives us a lot of values and a lot of wisdom. And I'm not sure if that relates to jury trials as much as it just does to life. If you're going to take an oath and take the responsibility of another person's liberty or justice,
Right.
I like them thinking high and keeping their goals high. And that is just so true, that we can all be high-minded and great when everything's going our way and we're just rolling 7s and 11s. But when things go tough, that's when he proved himself. That's when others of us get a chance to prove ourselves.
So I like this. Nothing that we despise in other man is entirely absent from ourselves.
Yes, and
So another man is entirely absent from ourselves.
so in essence, those of us who choose to hate, that I think is saying there's something in us that we're seeing or projecting into them that we don't like. That's the way I take that. Now that is a famous Lutheran theologian named Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was killed by Hitler because he was caught plotting to have Hitler killed. And he was not the only one, nor was he the only Lutheran who spoke out against Hitler, but he was quite famous, well known. As I understand it, he could have left and gone to the United States and been safe, but he chose to stay and paid for it with his life. But I learned of that because I believe Dr. King quoted this and used it, that they were kindred spirits, and that this was part of it. They're both preachers, of course, and,
Right.
and this is their way of thinking, and I think teaching you not only don't have to hate somebody, you got to figure out why you're doing it, and maybe once you figure out why, it's easier for you to give it up. So and this is the one that only one person has got, and I said, you're the only one who's ever got that right, and he says, my daughter told me that.
Loving and despising the other man is entirely absent from ourselves. That's true. It isn't what we don't know that gives us trouble. It's what we know that ain't so.
That's a good one.
Like that?
So that's, obviously it's, that our ignorance is not as dangerous as what we think we know or has been proven that's really not true. And the folksy way that it's stated, a fair number of people are able to guess that that's Will Rogers who said that.
Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power.
Okay, so we won't leave the room. We won't leave the room with that. I will politely suggest to my colleague that we feel that we have the power. We have been given power. And I think we know that our character is tested by that power, and we know when we're starting to get to a line or to a wrong place. That's Abraham Lincoln who said that, is the give the man power and he'll show his character or not, which I hope is a reminder to me, show it the way you were taught it, not just wield it and throw it like a lightning bolt out into the courtroom, which you're tempted to do sometimes. At least I am. I don't know, Judge Cunningham.
Well, you have to always ask the question of, what if the person on the other side was me?
Oh,
and I think when you ask that question, you'll always pull back and say, how would I want to be treated? And that's usually my approach. And I think it helps me to kind of rein it in a little and be respectful and allow the person to have dignity no matter who they are. And I think that's important.
You're really a humble man. I like you. Yeah.
I like Judge Clarke and his wife.
That's very well said, and I wish everybody did it. But some good judges, like Judge Cunningham, do it enough. Others of us, maybe not enough. Some not at all, and it's disturbing when you see it not being done.
It's a hard job. It really is. I've seen him be very. He can be very educational and understanding towards someone, because not everyone can afford an attorney. And then some of the attorneys that are new attorneys, and at the same time, when he reviews the law and distributes justice, then you want to see how many people are left smiling too in the court. But he does it with such grace. I mean, it's amazing. So, and I'm sure you do too. After talking to your, I really like your clerk.
Deborah Clarke? She's wonderful.
Yeah.
So I got to mention Lucy, my reporter.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And Mitch, my bailiff, because they're wonderful too. Judge Cunningham knows you can't go home and leave part of the family out.
Martha Cervantes. That is my lady. She helps. I can't survive without her.
There you go. There you go. No, I like this. I'm for truth, no matter who tells it. I'm for justice, no matter who it's for or against. I like that.
So that's such a good statement of what we're trying to achieve, it's so strong. This one, not too many people guess. That's Malcolm X who said that.
What a broad spectrum of people you're quoting. I'm impressed, Judge.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
it's, kind of try to make it courtroom relevant, and truth and justice are our jobs, and for someone to come in and say, I'm valuing the truth and I'm valuing justice. I'm not looking for the end result and trying to work backwards. I'm valuing those things. And I would say, good for you, sir. That's what we're trying to do.
Wow. Whether we are talking about an attorney or a bench officer, how do intelligence, diligence, or indifference affect the process of the criminal justice system?
Well, indifference is a corrupting force, in my opinion, for any of us. Attorneys who are indifferent, I wouldn't say I fear them. I worry about them, and I want them to change it. And I try to find a way to get them to change it, because an advocate who is indifferent, it gives no feeling of justice, no feeling of an adversary process. And as Judge Cunningham says, how would I like to be in this spot? And you think, how would I like my lawyer to be giving in or not knowing what they're talking about? And you think of that person in the chair. The indifference is a big problem, whereas the intelligence and the willingness to be a respectful and vigorous adversary makes me feel, I think most judges feel, good. This process will work. This person is represented by someone who is smart enough, they're willing to do the work, and so the clash of two sides doing that hopefully will get us to a result. And you're not worried, gee, this is going to be a rollover. This is going to be a mismatch because this person doesn't care. Maybe they're, way under the intelligence level required for this task, or maybe they're lazy. All those not good. So you'd like to see the Super Bowl of lawyers with a little more offense from the Rams, if I can say.
You saw that Super Bowl, right?
Oh, no. Why do you acknowledge friends or family members of the accused who come to court?
There's a few reasons. One is basic respect for the fact that these people are present and part of the event that's going on in my courtroom. Mothers would be the most common in my court. If somebody says, there's a family member of the defendant in the court, I want you to know that before you come out. I'm thinking it's probably his mother. Fathers are important, but mothers are most loyal and most often present. But anybody who's there, I would like to know that that person in a difficult spot has somebody that's supporting them. That tells me something, that they haven't worn out their support system, their safety net. There is something still there. And it maybe tells me a little bit about him. I could say him or her, but frankly, the proportion of women in serious felonies is so small that it's mostly young men, I'm afraid. But it tells you a little bit about him and who's available. And hopefully for me, if someone's going to design a probation or something that might help him, I've got maybe a teammate or a support system out there who will remind him when he goes home, here's what the judge said, or here's what you promised to do. Because if a lot of these young men go back to the other young men they hang out with, they will pretty quickly forget what we hoped to show them or the right path. So, and I just want the people to make the effort to come and watch, to know, I know you're here. I know you're making an effort, and maybe to think, okay, if I'm including them in that way, then maybe I'm including them also in the solution, if there is one,
Right.
to the situation. So, and also, of course, we have families of victims that show up too.
Right.
And, I want them to know that their loss and their pain is being respected. And what's, of course, quite difficult, Wanda, is when there's families on both sides.
Right.
And there's the mother of the young man killed and the mother of the young man who killed him. They're both mothers, and they both had hope. And now their hope is going through a lot of grief. And so somehow I just want them to know that I know they're there, and that they don't feel like they just came and went without being noticed.
That's extremely, extremely decent and kind of
Well, it's really significant at this time too, because when you look at, I know you can't help but feel that the judiciary is under a lot of criticism in the past few years for decisions that we've made, or that people are characterized as Obama judges or Trump judges, or people are characterized as from their nationality instead of simply a person that's attempting to be fair. And the importance of really being committed to the notion of it's something that belongs to all of us. It's something that we take ownership that's not along political lines. It's not along gender or racial lines. It's about the concept that it's something we can each and all be a part of.
I agree. I mean, I wear an outfit and I sit up high and everything, but I'm connected to those people. You know, I've got a mother. I've got family.
That's why I appreciate you being here today. That's absolutely awesome. And thank you so much, Deanie, for being here. Mm-hmm. What do judges consider when they take a chance on a sentence?
All right. So I like to bring my whole heart along with my brain. So I've got the books to tell me what the rules are and what the penalties are. That's not easy, but you just look it up and you can find what the book says. You know what the evidence is, especially when the jury has decided the case, which is what usually happens in my court. The jury has decided that someone is guilty and maybe some enhancements are true. Mm-hmm. So in that situation, I have to decide what the sentence is going to be. Or on some occasions when the defendant is unable to negotiate with the prosecutor and his or her lawyer says, Judge, we're just going to plead, they call it pleading open, pleading to the sheet. These are terms that mean I'm admitting everything they're charging me with. You do the right thing. You do the right thing. I don't know if they realize that, but that puts a responsibility on me that I often don't have, because usually they come and they say, this is what we wanted, this is what they wanted, we worked it out, and in the middle is our plea bargain or a disposition. And my option is, no, I'm not going to go along with that, or yes, I will approve it. So where there's been a trial, then I have a range of choices. When it's an open plea, I have a range of choices, and then I have to try to think about the various factors of accountability, of deterrence, and the philosophies of sentencing, which are more complicated, I think, than most people realize. And I hope I don't make them more complicated than they need to be by overthinking it. But you know, most of your friends, you ask them, you mention a case or something in the abstract, and they say, "Oh, what's the maximum? Give it to them." And you think, "Okay, well, you're no help."
Okay. Well, on that note, you have helped us. And we're out of time, and I want you to come back and tune in next week on From the Halls of Justice, because you have helped us tremendously. I think it's important for the community and the public to tune in and understand our judicial system. We respect and honor you, and we thank you for your time. It's invaluable.
Well, you're welcome. I'm happy if I contributed even a small part.
Thank you. Join us next week.